Awesome. We are live. Welcome everybody to M.A.U Weekly Show. I am with my trusted co-hosts, both Wayne and Jamie. It's still Jamie.
It's
Um,
interchangeable
yeah,
Jameses.
honestly, Jamie James, CTO, CEO. They both love Sync. They both love Convex. And they both worked at Dropbox. So I can't really see any differences from my perspective.
There's no
James, I don't know if you
differences.
have a rebuttal for that.
Sometimes people talk to me, they're like, "Oh, James, like as a CEO, blah 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 blah," and I just don't correct them. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, yeah,
The same thing seems to happen to me too. They'd be like, Michael, as a
yeah,
CEO, like,
yeah."
what's like, and I tell them, you know what, we'll talk about this later. But thank you for coming, James. Thank you for filling in for Jamie. Is Jamie okay? Is there a reason he's not here? Does he not like me and Wayne anymore? Like,
No,
what's
he.
the?
Oh, then that could be true. That could very well be true. But he is. Jamie's on vacation. I mean, I think it's relatively egregious for a founder to do anything other than be working. But
Honestly,
yeah,
like the
he's
whole
on
notion
vacation.
of family, like while you have a startup that's like, in his words, cooking. I just don't see the value in vacation. Like,
All
what
right.
is family?
Mickey, you said before we went on air that I was allowed to call people clowns, and
Yes.
I wanted to start by doing it.
Oh,
I want to
shots
send a
fired.
message to I want to send a message to Silicon Valley, right? If you're
Mm.
new to Silicon Valley, right? Like, don't fool anyone that sitting at a bar, pretending to work is like advancing like the industry or your career. Like, just
Have you
it's
seen those
healthy
pictures? Have you
when
seen
you're
those
at a
pictures with
bar.
the cigar and then like yeah, with the laptop on the like lounge
No,
chairs, like shipping
no one's
always,
no one's doing work in a pool. Like, nothing good. Like, I
hundred
mean,
percent.
lots of good things happened in pools, I'm sure, but nothing economically good happened in a
No,
pool, right? Like, if you're at the beach, be at the beach. If you're in a pool, be in the pool. If you're at a bar, put your laptop away unless you're on call. Like, plenty of our engineers have been on call in bars, let's be honest. I've been paged in
uh,
bars many times. But that's not that's playing pretends, I think. I think like when if you want to be locked in and be at
mhm.
like a desk and be concentrated, and you don't have to always be acting like you're
So no
doing something.
none. So no nonsense life, James.
No, I think
No,
what he's
well,
saying is when you're in the office, you're in the office. When you're with your wife, you're with your wife. When you are this, because like you see a lot of this, and I hate this too, because I've tried it. I've tried the like okay, I've gone to a different country. Like I remember I went to Bali, uh, and I'm like, I'm gonna work there while I enjoy the weather. I did not. I didn't do a single work. Like it's beautiful outside. There's scooters. There's people surfing. Like what do I look like sitting on a computer doing work
yeah.
in this beautiful place, right? So I'm with that. This is why
I guess I'll say because I don't want to be too soft about this. Like, I'll say it in the opposite way, right? Like, sure, sometimes it's busy work, or sometimes you just got to archive some emails or do whatever, right? But generally, work should be kind of a little bit hard. Like, it should be like you're trying. Like, if you're doing something differentiated and interesting and groundbreaking, it should be hard for you. It should be a strain on your resources, and it's really hard to be doing that when you're on a ski lift, so you're probably just playing pretends. You're probably playing
yeah.
dress ups, and that's okay, right? Because it's cool that you're excited about being in the tech industry, but don't fool yourself that you can be great by just chilling and just having the agent do something on the side. There should be a point in your day where you're everything you've got in your mind is dedicated at the task you're doing, and that's, I think, where great things come from.
I already like the level of spice. We got some topics we're gonna get into. This is what I was looking for, guys. This is what I want. I want my founders to get potentially canceled. This is where business happens.
Only only potentially, not actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so
potentially.
topic number one. Everyone is talking about this. I would love both your thoughts. We have the two, I would say, labs that are in the lead. Well, Google's up there as well. You have Anthropic, you have OpenAI. Both the founders, a lot of the AI founders, AI lab companies, you have the Microsofts and the Googles, were in India for some conference, and they all held hands except two particular individuals. Now, I'm not sure who rejected the hand holding or if there was or it was a mutually agreed thing, but I would love to hear your thoughts because business is business at the end of the day. but it almost feels personal. So Wayne, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that moment we saw on Twitter?
It's a sad day for society when two people of the most powerful and most influential AI labs in the world can't hold hands. That's my thought. So it's a sad day for society. We're
Really?
humans at the end of the day. We're humans.
Really?
I have one. I have one view. I have two views on this. I have two views on this. That's the one view. It's like just at the end of the day, we all humans. Why can't we just hold hands? And the other flip side of it, I see you roll your eyes. Other flip side of this is that if you cross me, you really cross me. I don't even want to hold your hand. I want to be in the same room with you. And I don't know if they're like that. So to me, if you can be in the same room and have beef, go ahead and throw down. If not, just hold hands.
Okay, James, please give me something
Yeah.
better. Sad day.
Yeah.
This is what I mean.
It's
Like,
it's a sign of a recognition of a zero sum game, right?
Mm.
Like because so Silicon Valley is normally a pretty friendly place. Like it's ultra capitalism. So like, don't get me wrong, this is not like touchy feely. It's like we're living in like ultra capitalism, right? But people are pretty chill. Like I'm
mhm.
it might blow people's mind, but I'm kind of sometimes helping out competitors. Like kind of you give people advice, or people do ref checks, or you meet people at events, and everyone's pretty chill with each other, and like not just chill, actually helpful with each other. Like I think it's fun. It's very common for founders to give each other advice and this and that, right? But every now and then you recognize that you're kind of in a winner takes all zero sum game. And that's when the relationship ceases being symbiotic and like mutually beneficial, and you start seeing that person as a direct threat to your existence,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think and look, and there's some people out there who are just kind of like pricks and like just hate everyone, but let's assume these guys aren't that, right? Then I think if you see situations where someone appears to be so angry at someone, it's because they see each other as like as you know, if,
Yeah.
for example, I think if like, look, if Anthropic was going to be like, hey, look, we're the coding company and we're just going after coding, and OpenAI was going to be like, hey, we're the consumer, like chat company, and we're gonna, then they'd be homies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
But don't you think there's like a world where maybe I'm thinking of this wrong, but like to me there seems like there's a world where both win. Obviously, there was that distinction where OpenAI sort of focused on consumers, right? Like I
yep,
always like see with the young people, like people call Chat GBT chat, right? Like that's their go-to. Like people be like, "Oh, I'm gonna Chat GBT it." You never heard people say I'm gonna Claude it, but most developers were using Claude, right? But it seems now they're both entering each other's turf. But I don't know. It seems to me the market's big enough for both of them to win. But to your point, they're sort of treating each other like it's not. Is that the case? Can both of them win, or does one have to win?
well, let's not forget that like Anthropic started it, right? Like
No,
those
they did. They did.
Yeah,
those
But
they,
those
they
respect
videos
left.
to
were like,
They
Anthropic, though.
left.
But respect to Anthropic, they caught up. I remember a time. I remember Sam in
oh
an
no, I
interview
meant
was
the start of the
basically
beef.
like,
No, sorry, yeah.
They started the beef. Yeah, they started. Yeah.
but
I
they
think it,
can't. Yeah, fair, no fair. They did, and they're continuing it, and they're like sending legal letters to everyone. Now, Anthropic, if you're watching this, I will give you very expensive paid advice to help you with the PR because the things you're doing is
You
just
know
not
what?
working.
Time out. Time out. Time out. Time out. Mickey, we're gonna have a rule. If you're gonna shill, you gonna first shill Convex before you shill yourself.
No, 100%. That's why. Do I have a Convex? Oh wait, I didn't wear the shirt, ladies and gents. If you go to
yeah.
convex.dev right now, you will have access to one of the best backends in the world, fully type safe, fully sync, right? You are incentivized to do the right thing, and it's great for vibe coding. So please check out
Yeah.
convex.dev. Now back to the main point. Yeah, it definitely feels like to your point, they're definitely, I would say Anthropic has started it. It's quite fascinating how much they've caught up because I remember a time where OpenAI was just in the lead with everything. But I will say OpenAI is sort of winning the PR game with like I don't know if you guys know now you can use your ChatGPT subscription, have access to Codex. You can use like your Codex if you have like a Codex subscription, you can use it with like OpenClaw or like whatever. Versus Anthropic, they're putting the ban hammer with everyone. But does that change? Like, even though the public perception towards them is sort of changing, does it change the fact that they're going to continue to make incredible amounts of money and people are going to continue using their models? Because I'll say this,
Yeah,
they're doing all this nonsense. I'm still using Opus 4.6. Does
they're in
that
great shape.
change people's perception?
Look, I mean, engineers are just going to use the right. So here's what's going on, and I'll be saying this with like humility. Like, what I don't run an AI lab, right? But like, what we can see is both labs have to find a means of being retentive, right? They're all saying like, oh yeah, it costs so much to train our models, but don't worry, we make profit on the old ones. Well, guess what? You have to keep training better new models or people will just switch to the next one, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a model right now where the switching costs for most people and software engineers in particular who are kind of famously disloyal about technology. So most like the average software engineer, if Gemini, whatever comes out, actually I think Gemini's doing quite well, the new model. But like, if a new model comes out tomorrow and it is a little bit better, we will all switch to it.
I'm leaving
And
today. Yeah.
yeah, and so the profits will and revenue will is very very dependent on the performance of the frontier of the latest model. And so far, Anthropic have done very very well at the kind of the only currently genuinely economically productive application of AI in a mass way is coding. I mean, no one can say that coding just hasn't been absolutely revolutionized by AI. It has, right? And there's so much money to be made from it. Anthropic, I think, from most engineers' perspectives, winning that game because most engineers, when they think, "What model do I use for coding?" it's generally a Claude model, right? OpenAI is the household name in the consumer space, right? Now, so they both have their niches, but they both have to keep innovating right now because there's
Yeah.
so much ability to switch. So these companies now are at this point where they have to find a mechanism of retention. Like have people become like loyal. I'm a ChatGPT user because it knows all about my life and I've shared all my secrets with 4.0 and it tells me how good I am every day. Or, I use Claude Code, and that's so embedded in my workflow that even if the next version of Gemini is better, I'm not going to switch because Claude already has access to all my tasks and stuff. So they're entering this era now where it's so expensive to compete on model performance that they have to find some means of product retention, of some means of holding people, even if someone else's model is slightly less good, because slightly better. Because if you don't do that, then it's just a race to the bottom. Everyone just has to keep spending more and more and more money training models. And then so Anthropic came out with it, and Anthropic did a Super Bowl ad where they came out and it had like
that was disrespectful.
sampled like What's the Difference by I don't know if people if you're like hip hop head, you won't recognize the song, right? But that's like What's the Difference? That's Dre and Eminem, right?
Yeah.
And like it's just like a beef, it's a beef song. They just went out and said like, hey, chat, OpenAI are advertising and don't trust them, and we're the ethical ones. So they just made a salvo in like, we make all this money off coding, and by the way, we're ethical, right? And so yeah, it's not surprising if these two companies have beef. Yeah, it makes sense.
And then you have Google, who's just dropped the model Gemini 3.1. I don't know if you guys have used it. I played around with it a little bit. I will say, to me, Google seems like the one that should win, and they've made a lot of like progress. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember how bad Bard was. When they dropped Bard,
What is Bard?
Bard was like, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but it was like their very like first like,
Yeah.
bro, it was so bad.
It's like
I would
Bing,
ask
but
it. No, I'd ask it that like the capital of Canada, and it'd give me some random city. Like it was that bad. To like now with Gemini 3.1, pretty good model. I would say though, it still sucks at tool calling, right? So to me, Google has GDP level money. They should figure it out. But I would personally still lead on to OpenAI or an Anthropic model. I don't know, Wayne, if you have different thoughts, or James, you'd like to chime in on that.
I don't sleep on Google. You know why? Because Google has a revenue stream and they have hella cash, right? Like Google, one, they have a portal, they have a means of surfacing, they have Chrome, right? And they have all these integrations, right? And they have a mad revenue stream that they can use to keep sustaining and loss leading model training, and they have the hardware. So I don't think Google's out of this race by any means. I mean, and they can maybe last longer than everyone else on the like burning cache kind of to improve model performance.
No, that
And
makes
look
sense.
at Wayne, did you just put this up there? The
Yeah.
look at that. Look at
Oh, so
Gemini
it's
3.1
really
Pro.
good at Convex. And I will say I do have a slight bias to Claude, like to the Opus model, simply because it's really good at convex code. Where with Codex, like it's okay. But we'll test out Gemini 3.1. I will say, James, you bring up a good point. They do have GDP level money. And one thing that I realized is they technically still have the most used AI product because when you hit search on Google, the first thing that you now see is that little AI summary. And I'm willing to bet more people use that than they do ChatGPT. So even in that case, they technically, because think about it, Google's
Yeah.
used ChatGPT would let's consider it a Western product. Like I don't think most people, especially in like the second or third world, are really using it. Or maybe if they are, like I went to Ethiopia a couple weeks ago, and some people use it, some people didn't, but everyone's using Google, right? So I think off sheer numbers, they technically probably still are the most used AI product. But yeah, to your point, they have too much money. I don't think anyone should bet against them. My Google stock is sitting pretty. Um, I do want to change topic a little bit because we have James.
Yeah.
James, coding by hand seems to be like. Let me give you a fire scenario. It
Yeah,
reminds me of a time when people, and maybe people still do, but it reminds me of a time when people admired painting by hand
yeah,
and would like pay a lot more money for a painting in their house. And I'm sure there's people who do that, but recently I'm at that age where a lot of like people are getting married and moving in together and stuff like that. I'm noticing people are like going on Etsy, buying someone's Nano Banana Pro print and putting it on their wall. So it
yeah,
seems to
yeah,
be not cared about as much, but obviously you have a different take, a contrarian take. Would love to hear your thoughts. What are your
yeah.
like with
Because look, I mean, firstly, this is February 2026, right? And I may look like an idiot in March, right? Um, I think there's tremendous value in coding by hand, but maybe not for the reasons people might think, right? Like for many developers, and I would say for most developers, 90+% of developers, you will be more productive using an agent, using an LLM than writing code by hand. But what do I care about? Well, I care about like excellence and innovation, and it's easy to say, but like my personal passion. I just love technology. But I don't love technology in the like someone cranks some stuff out. I love technology like who's advancing technology, who's coming up with new ways of doing things. And obviously the labs are innovating. The labs are innovating on model technology. They're not innovating elsewhere in the software development ecosystem, as far as I know right now, right? And so to be able to do great things, not just regular things, but great things, you have to put your head in a certain mindset. Like you have to get into a hard place. Like there have been times, and it's almost physically painful. And it sounds silly to say, but like there are times where you're facing an issue. It's so hard, and you don't know like how do I. It could be an outage, right? That's hard, but it could be like how do I design this storage system or whatever. And there's no one you can ask. You can't ask the model. You can't read a book.
Mhm.
You have to come up with this model. And it like it almost hurts your brain. You have to sit there, be in this scary place where you're like, wow, no one knows the answer. I don't know the answer. There's no easy right answer. And you have to go through this structured thinking process. And like I don't know, you're lifting weights that you don't realize you're actually capable of like 10 more reps, right? Like there's a mindset you put yourself into when you're doing real innovative work, right? And it's very hard to do that when you're in like lazy mode.
Yeah.
And so I still think like it would be stupid for me to say that you can build a CRM by hand faster than you can ask an agent to do that, right? And most of the time, if you're building a CRM, you don't even need to innovate. You're just trying to build something adequate and workable. But there are people out there in the world who are trying to make the world better. They're trying to make technology greater, cooler, better, more interesting. And I think it's very hard to do that if you haven't put the reps in to like struggle through an idea. And so I said just earlier today that like if you want a job at Convex, you have to be able to write code by hand, and that might seem like a real Luddite perspective, but right now I don't know a better tool for putting in the reps for like thinking in structured concepts. Like coding is not just a mechanical activity; it's a mental conceptual activity. You put your head in this visualize. I don't know. It's like you're visualizing concepts and linking them together.
Mhm.
It's like it's a hard thing, and that's why the greats in software engineering, like it's just like being the best at the NBA or whatever. It's like it's a real skill, and um, I I think the best way I know still to develop those skills is to be actually problem solving on your own in the forest. Like I don't mean the forest, you know, in the wilderness, in the mental wilderness, with no one to help you.
Mhm.
Getting some of those reps in are so good. So it's hard because I know it's more efficient to be using an agent all day. And most of the time in your job, you probably should be because you're just getting more done. But
Mhm.
sometimes you gotta like be in struggle town. And if
Yeah.
you're like, I guess you could do that prompting. Like you can be doing that. Like you can be prompting real hard. You know, like you could be thinking. But I think like that getting yourself, it's like doing math problems. Like when you
Mhm.
go to do a degree in like advanced mathematics and stuff, you're proving theorems that
Mhm.
have already been proven for most of them. Like no one's like surprised when you prove them, right?
Yeah.
But they make you do that because it just trains your brain in a certain way. I still think that there's a lot of value in that kind of activity
I'm
as
gonna
a
agree with you. I'm gonna
practice.
agree with you
Yeah,
on one hand, and then I want to give you pushback that I know you'll give an answer
do
to.
it,
So
do it.
the agreement is I've been working on like our public facing change log feature request, also sort of like a gambling site where you can gamble like the amount of convex chips you have so you can invest in a it's a weird thing. Jamie's idea, by the way.
Yeah,
I might have spruced it up a little bit. And we decided to use tan stack start. I decided to use tan stack start. And the models are not very good at tan stack start.
yep.
So like I initially wanted to see if I could vibe code it as the lead vibe code officer at Convex, but it just would not work. Like it just
Yeah.
like honestly it would not work. Like I tried everything, it would not work. And I started to write code by hand. And I noticed two things that I dearly missed. First and foremost, I genuinely found it fun. I missed it. But second of all, there was this dopamine rush that I feel like I hadn't experienced in a while since we all started to use AI that I used to experience when you figured out like a novel problem. Like I really wanted the site to be blazing fast and I wanted, caching in certain places. And like it was very hard to figure out, like for the AI to figure it out. And I did. And it was the best feeling ever. That being said, our friends at Anthropic built a C compiler, James, and they used AI, James. So
Did they build a C compiler?
I need you to tell me how is that possible? And
Oh
I'll
my
give
God.
Dario this. I'll give Dario this. I remember, I think last year he said we're 6 months away before people start using AI a lot more than they write code by hand. And I remember clowning him. I remember a lot of people laughing. And although he got
Here
the
we are.
timeline wrong, kind of
Yeah,
right.
he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
So
So
people do right. Yeah, yeah.
so the C compiler thing, like, what's going on, James?
Did Anthropic write a C compiler? It's an
From scratch.
interesting. It's like it's a philosophical question, right? And I am going to say, according to James, they did not, right? And I don't mean like any like I'm not throwing shade on the people who did it, right? Because what would it mean? Like, so people don't know Anthropic produced a C compiler. They had a model produce a C compiler, and maybe it works. I don't know. I haven't tried. But there were two or more very, very important ingredients went in that. One, the training set is full of C compilers already, right? So there is pattern matching of. So the ability to write a C compiler when you've seen a lot of other C compilers already does not imply that you can solve a new problem of C compiler difficulty,
Mm-hmm.
right? That no one has seen before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second massive, massive, massive factor, right? They had a really good test suite for a C compiler. And people, I wrote a message the other day on Twitter. I said, like, you're test engineers now, And a bunch of people are like, that's a skills issue. You don't know what you're talking about, James. Like, you just ask
Yo,
the agent.
saying, by the way, just I
Ask
want to
the
pause real
agent.
quick. Saying skill issue to James is the craziest thing ever, bro. Like,
That's yeah.
like this guy was
It's
working with the
terrible.
lady who invented abstractions. Saying skill issue is wild. I just
That's
want to put
cool.
that
That's
out there.
cool. That's cool. Maybe y'all just don't understand what tests are if you're saying these things in the community, right? Because like the magic is the test suite, but that might be really strange to you. Like it's very hard. So you might be familiar with SQLite, and SQLite is a I don't know what SQLite is, a standalone implementation of a SQL database. Very well, like famously reliable. And but the other famous thing about SQLite is, I think I'm remembering this correctly, they say that they're order of magnitude larger than their code base, right? So they
Yeah.
have the SQLite code base and they have this massive test suite. Now they wrote this all by hand, right? But what gave them the confidence that it was correct and shaped the development of it was this very impressive test suite. And we've spent a lot of time at Dropbox and stuff building very sophisticated testing. And when I say testing, I don't mean writing a unit test like, oh, you put two numbers into this function and it adds them and then you test it. But that's like baby testing, right? That's what you learn like when you first start programming. But testing is like, how do you evaluate, do you satisfy yourself that this thing does the job it's meant to do? Testing puts you in this mindset where you have to think conceptually that what is this system meant to achieve? It could be randomized testing. It could be like integration testing. It could be verification validation systems that run on a system after it's in production to make sure the data is still internally consistent, right? And a lot of very deep intellectual work goes into these test suites, right? So you can't just say, oh, I did this work. And by the way, we just ran it on this test suite. Because like and this is a very silly thing to say, right? But like with infinite resources, you could take a test suite and iterate over every single possible combination
And build
of
the
code.
actual
And
product.
eventually, now that's
Yeah.
silly, right? That's intractable. But like, that's the real gem. The gold there is the test suite. And if you're all out there thinking that like, oh, testing doesn't matter, the agent's going to write it, you probably think about testing wrong. I'm not
Yeah.
talking unit tests. I'm thinking about like the agent did something. How are you satisfied? And maybe even legally satisfied. Maybe you're selling a service to someone. Maybe you charge them $10,000 this month and they paid you to achieve something and you've never seen the source code before because your agent did it, right? How are you confident that that thing does what it's meant to do, right? And agents are heuristic. And as of right now, you can't really ask them, did they do the right thing, unless you have some means of validating them. So yes, you can use agents in the development of your testing, but what I mean by testing is you deeply thinking about how to evaluate whether something meets the requirements of, and many people haven't even, it's hard for them to understand this because they've never even done the work to understand what the system does. Like even the semantics, like the specification for a system is very important. I like what should SQLite do when there's when the transactions are aborted while something else is happening? Like, that has to be specified. It's a hard intellectual activity, right? And so doing that work allows you to. And so and Jamie's more bullish than me even on this, but like I think if you've got the tests great and your specifications correct and done all that work, the LLM can probably write most of your code.
No, that makes sense. Convex is just an excuse for James to teach about distributed systems.
I love to do that. My dream is just to run away and be a professor. Yeah, but I'm just
Dr.
married
James.
to the game. Yeah.
Dr. James.
He's married to the game. He's married to the game.
So, James, I guess from what you're saying is all the stuff that wasn't cool to the modern dev, like testing, pre-commit hooks, all these things are, I guess, cool again and necessary again, because to your point, if we're not quote unquote going to write the code, we might as well, make we might as well be very, very certain that it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. So if that's the case, then what the model did with building the C compiler is probably the equivalent of me, copying some already existing code, having a test suite, making sure it works, and then right? Like I have this tug of war between what's like there are times where I'm so amazed by the models, right? but then there's also times where I'm like, there was nothing impressive what it did. I don't know if you have this tussle
No,
as
it's
well where
impressive. It's impressive. I mean, it's still. I mean, because writing a compiler is a famously hard problem. So like, it still is very impressive this happened. But let's just not fool ourselves into thinking that what the model did is equivalent to what like Dennis Ritchie and like the original developers of the C language did when they designed the language and designed the compiler first. I mean, obviously, like um, LLVM is incredible, right? And
yeah.
like the amount of brain power and innovation that's gone into that is so impressive. And yes, there will be a point where the model can replicate almost all of that. But I don't know. I'm so bullish on human innovation. Like, I'm just like, like, I just don't like this either or. Like, oh, the models are here. Let's just turn our brains off and
Yeah.
be just on the train. That's just like, it's kind of like loser mentality. I don't know. Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, guess why don't we just give up? Like, Sam's just going to solve all our problems. Like, let's let the model lead our lives. Like, no, right? We've got a really, really, really good tool. How can we make ourselves continue to be relevant in the industry? And my suggestion for everyone is make sure your brain's kind of hurting every day. Make sure you're like getting feeling intellectual demands, because that's where innovation. Still, I don't know. Have either of you guys seen an AI innovate yet? I don't know if I've seen that happen.
No, it's good at regurgitating.
Yeah.
But no, I have not seen um any innovation. Okay,
I,
I will say the closest thing is, I don't know if you guys saw, like, they recently OpenAI shut down 4.0, and apparently people were genuinely falling in love with 4.0. Like, if you
Yeah,
search the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag keep 4.0, there are people literally like in love, like obsessed. So and I'm not even trying to make this as a joke. That sort of, I guess, feels innovative. Like, people are building attachments with things that don't exist, and that in and of itself, we've seen tons of movies about it. I'm glad they shut it down. But no, I have not seen any innovation, but it is really good at regurgitating things.
now look, like they've used LLMs to solve unsolved math problems, right? It's so impressive. Like, I don't want to be like this saying this is not impressive, but I do think that, like, we still
Honestly,
need
I think
humans. It's like the Matrix, right? Like, you like a bit disturbing, like, like the Matrix, like, where is feeding. I watched that movie the other day in a plane. You should
it
watch the
hits
Matrix
different
again.
now. The movies
What a
hit
good
different
movie!
now.
totally,
They
totally
hit
hit
different.
there.
I talk about them every week. Matrix, iRobot, Terminator. The movies hit different now because
It's
it
right
feels
here.
close.
It's all right
It's
here.
it still feeds off of us, as far as I know. The models still feed off of us as humans to innovate, come up with new cool ideas, raise the bar, and then it does this like incredible job of pattern matching and moving from there. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
humans. I'm still bullish on humans.
Yeah. I want agreed. I want to go back to this point about test suite is um, I'm a big fan of plan mode, right? And planning. And that to me, like we talking about what is a human in the loop aspect and like being in the weeds. That's where like to me, like you get the great output because you really have to think through a complex problem. We have to like whiteboard it out. We have to like and if you build any type of software, you know any type of code, you can think about architecture, infrastructure. So like plan mode. And then we know some applications have debugger and all that kind of stuff. But do we think we're gonna see a different in James your word and Barbara's word, like a different level of abstractions for app testing or for model testing that is more consumable when someone builds an app, right? It's going to be built
Yeah,
into the IDE, built into the CLI, where it's like, oh, now we need to test it out before we really go to production.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. The real thing I'm thinking about is like, how do we manage huge amounts of information now and consume it? Like, how do we AI help us be tech leads? Because there's just too much. Like, and we're in this ugly in between phase where I'm every now and then someone sends me this something like some code or a document, and they're like, "Hey, AI produced this thing. I don't know if it's good or not, but maybe you can take a look." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. You, you just asked me to do
Yeah,
all the work. I don't know, like
yeah, yeah,
so." So the how do we make it more efficient to evaluate and to produce doing the things that humans are so good at. Mickey, I kind of want to rant about geopolitics right now. You know, you said you wanted me to get in trouble.
But let's crash out. Come on, let's go.
All right, all right, okay. So there was a phase in the United States where a lot of people said, well, why does it matter to know how to build things? Because, like, hey, if I'm Boeing, right? Boeing, like the important part about Boeing is like designing the plane and marketing the plane and selling the plane. It doesn't matter that I know how to build a wing. Like, who cares? That's just like fiberglassing or carbon fiber composites, right? So then you outsource this stuff and you say, well, why would I manufacture a 3D printer or a whatever? Like, that's just the building. What
Mhm.
I do is the intellectual. Like, I'm the thought leader. I do the knowledge work, right? And then you can kind of outsource. And for many people in many industries, it's very rational. Like, that's part of our business. We're saying, I mean, I don't want to be hypocritical. We're saying, hey, you don't need to worry about how your backend works. We'll take care of that for you, right?
Mhm.
So for most Convex customers, you don't have to think about distributed systems because our job is to take care of it, right? But eventually, when you outsource all this has happened right in the world, right? I'm starting to use products out of China that are just better than American products. There was a time where like Chinese goods were considered like cheaper and not as
And
good,
less
right?
quality. Yeah.
And lately, I bought like a Weem, like a music streamer app. It's in my mind, it's better than Sonos. I just think it's just a better product. And I have a Bamboo Labs 3D printer, and I just think it's better than like the stuff that you can buy locally in the States. And I had until it got stolen, I had an Insta360 camera, which I think is also a Chinese company. And so like, all of a sudden, there's people able to make better products because they understand how things were made and how things work. And it turns out sometimes you just can't like innovate without having a understanding of the process, right? And so I won't talk any further about that because then you start getting what to do about that. I don't know. I don't want to step on that, right? But what I will say is that if you want to innovate in a certain area of engineering, it does really help to know what's going on below you in the stack,
Mhm.
above you in the stack,
Mhm.
right? And be intellectually engaged. But it's not rational for everyone to do it. So for most folks, most people drive a car and they don't need to know how the car works. They just get in the car and they drive it. And they open the hood and it's a bunch of um, hoses and wires and stuff. And they're like, I don't care what this is. And it's rational for most people to do this. And that's the same as using a model to produce things. But some people need to design cars. Some people need to
Yeah.
design 3D printers or music streamers. And some people need to design databases and things, right? And for those, I think it's very hard to innovate if you're not intellectually involved in the process of how this code was produced.
Yeah.
And so, like, internally in Convex, people do use agents, but we can't like turn our brains off and just say whatever, just produce it, because our job is actually innovating. Right?
Yeah.
And so, I would say for anyone, you just got to ask, if you have a business, if you're a founder, if you're working at a company, what is your value add, right? Because your value add might be the design, might be the graphic design, it might be whatever it is, right? Focus on that. Make sure you understand that. Like, if you're a graphic designer and all you do is ask Nano Banana to produce images, you're not going to be a good graphic designer,
Yeah.
right? And similarly, if you want to innovate in software engineering and all you do is ask the model to produce code, you're probably not going to come great at it. And that's not because it's not because Nano Banana can't make a good image. It's just you won't develop the skills required to be excellent.
Yeah. So it
That's,
sounds like, but to me, like not a pushback, but like one thing I want to ask you is, it sounds like, at least this is my view, most software that's being built now is not on the innovation side of things,
yeah,
right? Like most software, it's a mobile app, it's a thing tracker, it's this, it's that, it's that. So it sounds like most developers are probably just going to let the model do the thinking for them,
yeah,
right? Because
yep,
to your point, I think the CRM has been solved, right? Like the workout tracker has been solved. It's just a matter of how you present and market and like how handle all these things. And then if you have a great abstraction like Convex that allows you to scale very, very fast and is
yeah,
retimed by default, then like it seems like the thinking for most, I don't want to say engineers, but for most like developers or people who are building software products, it feels like that's been abstracted away or is not necessary anymore.
Yeah, you just got to decide where your value is created, right? So when we started Convex, I didn't think we were doing a bad thing for the world by making people know less about distributed systems. I actually think we're doing a good thing for the world because for most businesses, that's not their differentiator. For most businesses, they don't have to build a better database than somebody else. They could just use it and focus their energies on the part of their business that matters, right? And so
Yeah.
everyone just has to decide where do they provide value to the world or whatever, right? And make sure that you're like developing in the area you produce value, right?
Yeah.
So if where you produce value is being, good at prompting and this and that, then great. But if like
Yeah.
if you have to like you said, Micky, you've already run into situations right now as of February 2026 where the model couldn't sort certain things out, right? So
No.
the fact that you can program meant that you were able to transcend that and overcome a roadblock, right?
And it is a
Uh,
great feeling.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I highly encourage people get the books before the AI destroys them. I don't trust any of these models. One thing though, I will say, one qualm I have with our space and AI is I feel like anything that's open source is sort of ruined by the amount of AI PRs things are getting, right? Like I find that any sort of
Yeah.
open source project that's mildly successful, and by mildly I mean over 400 GitHub stars, like it's suffrage, right? Like even with like our Stripe component, like it's my job to maintain that. I'm the one who made it. Like there's a couple good PRs. They're written by AI, but there are a couple ones they were written by AI and it was just completely off, right? So is this, I don't want to say is this the end of open source, which would actually be a great YouTube title to clickbait people, but in all seriousness, do we rethink open source? Because now it's so cheap. Code has become cheap. Not good code, but code in general has become cheap where I can just tell the AI, okay, fix this problem. It looks good enough. I don't have a test case. I'm not really going to test it locally, but make the PR. And now some open source maintainer, like you said earlier, I've outsourced my job of making sure the code is good to that person. So with this issue in mind, does open source change, or are we just going to wait for the models to get better so those issues
Yeah.
are not as prevalent?
Open source has changed forever. And I'm maybe not prepared to share all my thoughts about that just yet. But I will
By the way, these
say,
questions aren't random. We heard like we had like a show and tell, and I heard some interesting things he said. So if he says
yeah.
he's not ready to talk about it, then he's not ready to talk about it. But do continue, please.
Yeah, but I think this is like a tragedy of the common situations. So you see this a lot in society, right? Where as a society collectively we decide on some norms, right? But those norms are like only survive by virtue of barriers or inefficiencies, right? So previously, I'll give an example of how just the norms of contributing to open source. Previously, you would submit a PR against like the Linux kernel or whatever, right? And it was really hard to do. And so there was no real like barrier to enter. There was no need for some codified thing because we would just be like, okay, like it's hard to do it anyway. Clearly, stuff like if you see a lot of code, clearly someone put a lot of effort into it. There was some structural barriers to actually contributing to PR. And this is the same in so many other aspects of society, right? It's like once upon a time, it was really hard to copy someone's work. Now it's really easy to copy someone's work. And so you can't use the norms from 10 years ago and say, well, this is just like back then when you went to a library. Well, it's not like going to a library, right? But, so the efficiency changes things, right? And now we're in a world where someone can produce infinite PRs so quickly and throw them at a open source maintainer, and there's an arms race. Like, how do you even like? All of a sudden, now we may need to come up with new norms, right?
Yeah.
New barriers to entry. We may need to be like, hey, you don't get to submit a PR unless you have a sufficiently strong reputation, or maybe if you want to submit a PR, you have to give us the prompt you used so we can look and see. Or an AI can look and see, right? Like I'm not saying it has to be a person doing it, right? But to see where this came from and how much effort was put into it. Because yes, the ability to have like, sometimes I talk to, and you might have heard me say this. When I talk to the team, I say like, we don't sell a product, we sell responsibility, right? Like what we sell is you pay for Convex, it works. We won't let you down. right? We don't say use this and I guess it works, maybe it doesn't, right? And so like they pay us to take responsibility for the back end, right? And similarly, when someone puts up a PR, once upon a time the responsibility was you spent a whole bunch of effort to make this thing, right? Now we need to figure out some other way of like,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
that's a
It
good
is.
knowing
James. You bring up a great point. Because everybody talking about disruption and so forth and AI and everything, but GitHub is this middle layer that is, at some ways going to become a blocker or needs to evolve to like create a new workflow for everybody to deal with all the AI like slop and like pull request issues. And I feel like if 2026 by the end of this year, or at least hopefully by the next 6 months, there should be some sort of new workflow to help solve this
yeah.
problem.
Oh,
No,
I mean, I won't leak anyone's work, but like there are a lot of people working on this problem right now. You know,
yeah,
how to track where a PR came from, what work was done. I mean, I'm sure you'll have this, right, as publicly facing people at Convex. Like I get the number of emails I get per day is out of control right now. Like I'm getting like many dozens, it could be 100 emails a day from someone, and it's like, "Hey James, I loved your takes on blah 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 blah. I loved your video about distributed systems," and no, it's made up. Like the LLM wrote it, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
once
No,
upon a
I did.
time, the norm was that I would someone write me this, and I'll take it seriously, and I would write them a personal response, and I would. But now I get played, you know. So we
You
just
know what?
have to find new norms.
You know what I did one time? I posted a video on X, and the title had nothing to do with the video. I did it for the fun of it, and every response, like a couple of the responses, how I knew they were AI generated, because they were responding to what the title said, but the video was completely different, right? So yeah, we're entering an era where slop is everywhere. I do like the idea though. You mentioned this, James, and I think someone else talked about it before too. This idea of like, give me your prompt. Like when you make a PR, or let me have
Yeah,
access to your trace. Like let me see your back and forth with the model, and like let me see like each step the code it generated. Like I think that makes for a more like cleaner review process. But one tangent I want to take is, James, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Wayne went to a party where they were
do I
celebrating.
do I want to hear the story?
No, 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 you
Oh,
do, because
Mickey, there's a lot of conversation about parties these days, but it
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
good
yeah,
party.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
It
wait,
was a good
no,
one. It
no,
was.
not that kind, not that kind, not that
Yeah,
kind.
yeah.
Wayne did not go to that kind. Wayne did not go to a Diddy party. I can vouch for him. I can vouch for him. Let me be specific. He went to a party where they were celebrating markdown files and skills. And Wayne, I would love for you to tell us about it because there was more than 50 people, which I didn't know there were that many people who cared about markdown files.
No, there was it was our buddies over at Versailles. It was their skills.sh, their directory launch party. There was over 1,000 people registered. There was like six talks. It was an afternoon. This is a casual afternoon in San Francisco, the Barcadero. About 1,000 people. I would say about 600 showed up. Pat room to talk about skills, and it was amazing. It was good. I would say the most
We're in a
interesting talk.
bubble.
Yeah, no. Here's the most. Well, yes, but no, yes, and the most interesting about that conversation was something that someone from GitHub said what they're doing with VS Code. They mentioned that they're going to have skills. They're going to use skills to actually make many APIs with VS Code to give skills more power. But outside of that, we're talking about markdown files.
Can we just talk about VS Code real quick? The amount of people VS Code has employed, the amount of investors who've made money off VS Code. Like VS Code is the reason. Like how many employees does Cursor have? Or like all these other like model harnesses that are like VS Code extensions like Klein, Augment Code. Like these are all companies that have raised like millions of millions of millions of dollars and all from an open source project. So
Shout
shout out
out
to
the
VS
innovators.
Code.
Yeah,
Yes,
shout out GitHub Copilot. You know, like honestly, like w- that was my first time using an
yeah,
AI augmented programming.
yeah,
Was
tap
GitHub
complete.
Copilot. You know? Um,
So
Micky.
Wayne, please tell us about like so you're telling me the whole thing was about skills.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we're in a bubble. We're in a
it's
bubble.
great. It's great. What my view in the bubble is like whatever happens, we need to go with. Let's keep it going another 3 years. Jamie is like he doesn't want to keep going because he wants to like he wants to weed out all the like hype companies and the good engineers are going to come work for a serious infrastructure company like Convex. Yeah, that's his view. Like my thing is like I look at we in the information bubble because you go outside of 30 miles east, maybe not that far, San Francisco, Silicon Valley. You ask them like, what is the skills? They can be like, oh, I know how to do the X, Y, Z. I know how to do this. They're not talking about around
No.
their house. So there's a big informational bubble.
No, I
Uh,
do
oh my-
agree.
yeah,
You know what humbles me? Like every Sunday when I go to church and I'll talk to people about AI and they're all like, "Huh?" Like I had a good friend of mine, he recently discovered Lovable and it's changed his life. He's like, "Yo, I go to the site, I type in it and it generates a UR like it generates a web page and I see his web page. It's the most my friend, if you're watching this, I apologize, but it's the most terrible looking thing. It's just purple and blue, but he's so excited and he's so happy. So I I I, I do wonder sometimes where like the things that we're using right now are literally game changing and life changing to people outside of our bubble. And I also do think there is a class of developers. Like I saw some video and like they were like do a show of hands. How many of you have used AI to write code? And I think it was like a Java meetup. Shout out to all the Java developers. Um, and I think like two people had their hand up. So it does feel like, yeah, like we're kind of in our own little concentrated SF bubble and there's still a lot more growth. Either way, the smartest thing to do, whether you're a vibe coder, whether you're a real engineer, is to use convex.dev. If you go sign up right now, we have a generous free tier. You could do everything with Convex. You could build your backend, you have access to a database, you want to schedule jobs, you want to handle queues, you want like these really robust workflows. Convex.dev, the free tier is very generous. And by the time you don't need the free tier, you probably made some money. So make sure you go on the pro tier so my salary can get paid.
Micky, I love
Um,
that. Micky, I just want to like roll back some like gatekeeping energies I've been projecting, right? Because like I'm actually not a hater, and like I'm excited about like democratization of technologies, right? The point of Convex is that there are Convex customers, right, who make mad money right now. They couldn't have built their product if Convex didn't exist, right? And
100%.
I think it's awesome. And I don't want to gatekeep and say you don't deserve to have a profitable company if you're not a database engineer, because that's not true, right? And so I think one of the positives that's coming out of like obviously platforms like Convex and agent augmented development is people with skills in certain areas that are not represented in the tech industry right now are able to do cool stuff, because it's a monoculture out here. We all into the same old crap,
Yeah.
right? Every tech bros like into coffee and rock climbing and mid-century modern furniture, and like it's just like we're all the same.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to build dev tools, and so someone has to be out there building software for like wheat farmers and things, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be someone who deeply cares about that industry, has some interesting insights about that industry. My take is just don't be lazy,
Yeah.
like you don't have to be excellent at distributed systems to be a significant part of the software industry. Absolutely not, right? But you do have to be excellent at something. You have to probably, if you want, like, hopefully, right, find an area you're deeply passionate about. And um, that to me is encouraging and inspiring. I find it very discouraging, the whole like software is easy now, just like whatever, things will just pop out. And I didn't put any work. Like, look, I put no work in and I got this project. Cool, right? What are you bringing to the table?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's facts. I think two things. First, one of the most exciting projects I saw built on Convex. I think the last 2 weeks I went to an event. Wayne just sends me to these events, James. But I spoke with someone, and they were building a storytime app he was building a storytime app for his daughter. So he uses Convex. I know he told me he used the workflow component. Does not know how to write code at all. Is not the like it's not he's not a technical person by trade, but more so someone who just like likes tech, watches videos and all that type of stuff. So anyway, he uses Convex. uses like some sort of Next.js starter kit, and he built an app where every single night it generates a bedtime story for his daughter, but then uses Nano Banana Pro and then uses some video gen model. So it's like her cartoon. It looks like her, and there's sound and there's this and like that. When I hear stuff like that, to your point, the democratization of software is exciting to me because someone who probably didn't know, that person did not know how to code and probably 10 years ago would not be able to build that, but now they have access to build that. But on the flip side, I think for especially the developers watching, there we're entering a time where just caring and knowing a little bit more will actually provide valuable. Like I saw a job posting on X, and the person was like, "Oh, we need great React developers." And there's tons of comments, but then the person quote tweeted and said, "Everyone just knows the basics. No one could answer a React internal question." And that stuff matters, right? Especially if you want to build really, really good software. Even if you're using AI, you have to be able to tell the AI exactly what to do. I vibe coded Claw City, and it was great until it started to break. And then I wrote that article, and I'm looking at what AI did, and it's doing dot collect on a data on a table that's going to have like more than 10,000 records, right? So this extra proficiency that a lot of people are not willing to do, but if you're willing to do, I feel like makes you a valuable person, not only in this space, but in any other space. So I think it's just going to be easy pickings for the ones who actually care to take the time.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, message from the, like I said, the land of ultra capitalism over here, right? It's from Silicon Valley. We're in a gold rush right now. And during a gold rush, there are arbitrage opportunities, right? Where there's just like, someone hasn't bothered to pick up the gold scraps in the ground, right? So there are ways to just make money right now off random activities.
Yeah.
Um, but once we stabilize as an industry again, it will come back to like people will be rewarded for their unique, valuable contributions that they make. Right. And so if someone's doing something interchangeable from what everyone else is doing, they're not going to kind of have a sustainable long-term business model, etc. So everyone just needs to find the thing that they love and they're passionate about and they're uniquely skilled at, right? Because it's going to take a while for the dust to settle. Like there will be a couple more years in the valley where VC money is just flooding in and you can make money doing random shit, right? But once we stabilize, you're going to have to be doing something uniquely worthwhile. And that could, for me, that's like whatever, designing databases. But for y'all, it might be, yeah, doing whatever. But you just
Yeah.
spend the time, and I just want to encourage everyone to spend the time and the effort to find that, and don't let like this kind of the narrative online make you defeated or lazy, because there's still ways to just be incredibly valuable. And what's great now is you don't have to be a distributed systems engineer or whatever, or know how to build a backend to do something incredibly valuable. But you do have to have some unique passion or skill for something.
I love it. I love it. Now, speaking of capitalism, money, and building cool things, if anything that James said is interesting to you, then you should get a job at Convex. We are hiring. And here's the cool thing about working at Convex, you get to work with people like James, like Wayne. I'm not too bad myself as well. You get to work with a pack of great engineers that are building something cool. So if you actually care about this stuff, you nerd out, and you want to get paid, then Convex is the place to work for you. James, if you want to maybe specify what type of folks you're looking for, and then we can close out the stream.
Right. I want the kind of people I've been talking about, people who deeply care about something. Right. And like I said, like you don't have to be the world expert on everything to be valuable here, right? But you have to ideally, I mean, we're hiring people who are excellent software engineers, right? But we hire junior folks too. But I want people who don't plan to be passengers throughout this current wave of the industry, but who are like want to push, like want to stay ahead of the wave. If that's what inspires you, if you're like, wow, the industry changing so much, what do I do? I feel like I'm getting dragged along, and you want to be ahead of the wave instead. That's the kind of people that I want to be here.
Yep, you heard him. Someone said y'all don't hire remote though. Why would we hire remote control? Obviously, like we want to hire humans. I'm being facetious. I don't think we hire remote. Correct?
We have a couple of remote folks right now. Officially, no, but we've been taking some contractors remote.
I heard if you can rehearse this book like word for word, James will hire you even if you're from Mars. So
I
like,
mean, look, Micky's in Canada.
yeah,
He keeps tucked in the curling thing.
I had to. Yo, did you hear the Swedes try to say my people cheated when they actually did, but it doesn't matter. Like game is game.
Yeah, so officially we're hiring in San Francisco. Unofficially, I don't know. But I
Yeah,
don't plan on switching Convex to be a remote first company. I think we get a lot out of that kind of in-person collaboration that we kind of brainstorm all the time. But there are some roles that we can make it work remote.
and I will honestly say, like, man, like if you are a young buck and you are talented, I would make the move. Like, you know what I mean? The weather's great, especially if you live anywhere cold like Toronto. Please, like,
So you coming?
just
You
move.
coming? Is that a
No, no,
prelude?
no, no. But I'm there
Oh,
next week, though. I'm there next week. We'll hang out. We'll hang out. I'm not riding in any Waymos. We'll hang out. We'll get some work done.
we hopping in the Waymo. We
No, we're
hopping in
not.
the Waymo.
Thank you,
We go to
everybody, for
YC.
joining us for today's tonight's show. James, thank you so much for chatting with us. We'd love to have you more. Like I
I enjoyed
appreciate
it,
you
guys.
willing to take risks. You know, Jamie's like that too, but Wayne is just too kumbaya for my liking. So we'd love to have you
Wayne
on
is
more.
Wayne is like the ethic, the cultural, social, just always reliable, good guy. Wayne.
No,
Everyone knows
Yeah,
Wayne's a good guy.
no.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
time to go. All right. It's been
Thank
great.
you,
I see
everybody, for
y'all.
joining. Again,
All right.
check out Convex if you haven't. Free tiers.